I'm sure you've heard of Zhuge Liang, the newest Archer commander, and today I'll be making an in-depth guide for him. I'll go over pairs, talents, skills, some equipment you should be using with him, and even more tips that I can bring. If you are interested in investing in Zhuge Liang, or you really just want to know my opinion on him, or if you just need more information on where to use him and how to use him, this is the video for you. Let's begin with the Zhuge Liang skills. His active skill, you deal 2000 damage factor to 5 enemy targets in a circular AoE. It was confirmed by VIP support that it is a circular AoE. Also, along with this, he reduces the damage he deals to each target by 15%. This is normal, all commanders do this basically. And the next thing, all targets deal 15% less all damage. That's really powerful. That's actually a very, very good debuff. There's not many commanders that give all damage debuffs, if any, and he's the only one that I know that has it on an active skill, so it can stack basically infinitely since it's only Zhuge Liang who can throw this debuff. And this is a debuff to 5 enemies as well. Most massive debuffs are to like 3 enemies, for example, CPOs. Boudica's is to 1 enemy, Nevsky's to 1 enemy. So you can see that debuff to 5 enemies is basically just screwing over anyone that's hitting Zhuge Liang, and I really like it. Second skill, archer units led by this commander gain 30% increased health, which is really, really powerful, and deal 5% extra damage. So that's another 5% all damage that you're now dealing to the enemies, which is once again very powerful. Next on this list, whenever he's inflicted with a control effect while on the map, he has a 50% chance to just negate the effect. Very much like Boudica, how she has an 80% chance when expertised to negate the effect. However, with Zhuge Liang, this is just an on-unlock thing. You don't have to level up the skill to get that effect, and it's really, really nice. Also, every time he does negate the effect, deal direct damage factor 500 to the attacking troop. This can trigger once every 5 seconds. Bit bad on the English there because it says to the attacking troop. Usually they say if you're being hit. I'm presuming this means only if you're being attacked. So if someone's, let's say, hitting you with a Henry or something, and they give you a silence, I don't know how, let's just say they did, you can hit them back for like 500 damage factor, and basically you get a nice revenge damage. Now, it's not very powerful, but it's not too bad. Whether or not it will trigger if you're only attacking an enemy and Artemisia self-silences, I don't know. It's never really been said, and we'll have to figure that out when he truly comes out. I presume it's just a revenge damage though, otherwise it'd be quite powerful. Third skill, if this commander's troops contain only archer units, you deal 20% extra skill damage, which is really, really nice. That's like a YSG skill. And normal attacks have a 10% chance to increase his attack by 50% for 3 seconds. This only applies to archer units, because obviously it's an archer unit only skill. This can trigger once every 5 seconds, so basically it's a nice chance to deal 50% extra damage, and the skill damage increase is nice. Not too high, but not too bad, and it's fairly nice to have on a very high skill damage commander already. Fourth skill, whenever this commander uses an active skill, his troops gain the marquee effect, thank you for everyone who taught me how to say that, and deal 10% increased damage for 10 seconds. So this is like a buff basically, that's going to give you massive damage for 10 seconds, and that's going to basically last every single skill cycle. Along with this, it says the effect cannot be dispelled, so that's one thing you should keep in mind. You can't actually lose that effect, so no matter what happens, he's always going to have that effect basically. Next, if he contains only archer units and has the marquee effect, whenever this troop uses an active skill, they will consume the marquee effect to deal direct damage up to 3 enemy troops, damage factor 1,500. Damage dealt through this method is not affected by skill damage buffs. Now, you may be thinking, oh, that's very, very good. Like, that's 4,500 damage factor. But it's like, okay, it gets reduced per target. But wait, it doesn't. It doesn't say here that his damage gets reduced per target. So you can infer, for example, like from Cyrus's skill, where he does damage to multiple targets. If it doesn't say it's reduced, it's not reduced. So that is 4,500 damage factor. Some commanders like Artemisia deal, yes, it's more, but her damage is reduced. That's basically like throwing an Artemisia active skill right there. Like, not even joking, that is an Artemisia active skill in a 4th skill slot. It's really, really good. On his expertise, it's basically buffing that marquee effect. So now, upon entering battle, you get the marquee effect. This means you could leave a battle and then enter it, have the marquee effect, throw an active skill, use the marquee effect, and then basically just destroy them by getting your marquee effect back if he's the primary. That's how this is inferred. However, it may not be like that, but the way it's reading is when you gain the marquee effect, there is no cooldown. So you should be able to just get the marquee effect twice if you throw your active skill and then use another active skill. However, it does say whenever this commander uses an active skill, so it may only be him. Still, having his expertise means you can go into a battle, have the marquee effect, throw it, 2,000 AoE to 5 targets, plus the 1,500 to 3 targets, you're dealing like 13,500 skill damage, something stupid like that. So it's a lot of skill damage, and it's certainly very, very powerful. Also, it lasts 15 seconds now, unless this is only this marquee effect, we don't know. And he deals 10% increased all damage like usual. So basically, you're keeping 10% increased all damage forever, or you're trading it in for an absolute motherload of skill damage. He also, whenever does skill damage with any of his skills besides the second skill, so borrowing arrows doesn't do any, like, no matter what that does, he won't gain any rage. But if he uses an active skill, or if he uses his marquee, not going to say the other word, basically he gets 30 rage per time he uses that. So 60 rage is fairly nice. It's like having an extra rejuvenate. So you can see Zhuge Liang is really a very, very high DPS, no march speed, no defense commander. He does have some attack, but it's a trigger chance, and that's not very good. But he has so much bloody damage. Like, the damage he's dealing is next to, literally, no, you know what? It's not even next to, like, the best commander. It is the best in the game by far and away. So that damage factor is really, really nice, and it's the main reason I think everyone should really be trying to have a Zhuge Liang in their murder ball. That being said, what do you really do in terms of like pairings for him? And I think that it's heavily reliant on a few things. First of all, you definitely want march speed. You definitely want some form of defense because he has no defense. And you preferably want some type of skill damage increase to the opponent, or like you get a skill damage increase, or even like just a lot of march speed and a lot of defense. It's between those. So the three best pairs in my opinion, the best pair in my opinion currently, obviously is Boudica and Zhuge Liang. There is one thing to note though, this is only if you're running one archer march. If you're running two marches, it's actually not the best pair, and I'll talk about the best one in that situation. Because Boudica is the best archer commander currently, put her with Zhuge Liang, you have the new best pair. That's pretty simple. So the reason Boudica really works well with Zhuge Liang, first of all, she does have some march speed. While not too much, it is better than nothing. She's also got obviously a bunch of active skill damage factor, and she's giving the opponents a skill damage debuff. She also has a bunch of skill damage tech and reductions and normal attack damage bonuses, stuff that Zhuge Liang doesn't actually have. And she's also got a bunch of defense on her second skill whenever she loses not a fair amount of units, 20% only. So that's pretty good. She also does deal some increased damage to infantry for what that's worth. And she can also dispel silence effects and control effects here. Now, the only issue with this is her expertise is kind of counterintuitive, because if you have it with Zhuge Liang, it's going to be a 130% chance to dispel the effects rather than the 100%. So you are missing out on about 30% right there. And it can be pretty unfortunate to not have that silence like removing on another commander. For example, let's say you had for some reason a Zhuge Liang El Cid, you could just have the silence effect be removed on the El Cid, and whatever commander Boudica is with would probably get the silence effect removed, rather than it only being on one silence immune march. Yes, it makes him completely silence immune, but it's only useful if you're like fighting a Guan at that point, or any new commanders they add with silence. So it is definitely still the best pair if you're going for one archer march and you want the best march. It's Boudica Zhuge Liang easily. The second best pair, and this is the best if you're running more than one archer march, is Henry in my opinion. Some people say that it shouldn't be because the third pair I'm going to mention is really, really good as well. But Henry with Zhuge Liang is good as well, because Henry, 2,300 damage factor like Boudica, and he takes a skill damage reduction of 30% for 5 seconds. So basically, you're going to be taking way less skill damage in that time frame, and that's really nice. Next up, he's got a bunch of defense and a bunch of march speed of territory, which is really good. And he's got a bunch of guaranteed, basically, revenge damage, which is also really nice since Zhuge Liang doesn't have it. If you expertise your Henry, you also take a lot less normal attack, and you also deal a lot more normal attack when you're higher rage. The only thing with Henry, he doesn't really offer any skill damage boosts unless you're rallying with him. So it can be unfortunate in that regard if you're running Zhuge Liang and Henry, and you are missing out on a little bit of skill damage in comparison to like a Boudica, in comparison to the next two combos I mentioned. But he's still pretty good. Nebu is the third best combination in my opinion. Nebu obviously 1,500 damage AoE. Best part is he has defense and march speed, so that's really, really good about that combination, and it's the main reason you'd pair them. Also, Nebu's AoE, since it is an AoE and it's 5 targets, is going to benefit from Zhuge Liang's skill damage a lot more than, for example, Boudica's active skill or Henry's active skill. So if you're running a pure damage march and you just really want to just crank out as much AoE as you can, Nebuchadnezzar is certainly very good. He also does have another all damage here, and it is a raid reduction, which is nice to know, but it doesn't change too much in terms of like how that march is going to perform. So even a 5-5-1-1 Nebu with Zhuge Liang is going to be fine. Then you've got the tried and true Yi-Song. Most players have Yi-Song. Why not put two Yi-Songs together is basically the way this is going to be. We all know how Yi-Song works. He's got a 5 target AoE, 1,700. Now the best AoE is Zhuge Liang's. And also Yi-Song, 50% skill damage, plus he's a rage engine, which is really nice. The skill damage is what you care about the most here. Having 70% total skill damage on an active skill means you're going to deal like an absolute crapload of skill damage with both Yi-Song and Zhuge Liang. So it's nothing to laugh at, and I think that's very strong. I do like the rage engine, so you can just throw skills and, just kind of get like as fast as you can. One thing to note though, Zhuge Liang could actually work with like almost any commander. I don't actually like Artemisia too much because he doesn't guarantee that silence to be shrugged off. And with Zhuge Liang, I just want to throw my active skill as much as I can just to deal ridiculous amounts of AoE, especially with that marquee effect. You just want to get in there, throw the active skill, deal like 13,000 AoE and just run. That's basically what you want to do. One thing to note, he doesn't really work as well also with Edward of Woodstock because he also has a very high rage gain. So that's something else you should keep in mind. Now, in terms of talents for Zhuge Liang, there's two really standout pairs, and these are two standard pairs that I run on other marches as well. First of all, it's not this pairing, but we're using Boudica because she has the same talent trees. I would be running either if you don't really care as much about the rage and you just kind of want it's slightly slower in terms of rage cycle, but you're dealing a lot more damage with like the archer tree. You can consider this, and this is more of, I guess, more of a rally-oriented talent tree in some ways, but it still performs really well in the field, and if you're not too fussed about maybe throwing your active skill possibly a turn later, this is the tree for you. You will be dealing a lot more all damage, so there is a chance that you are dealing more damage on your active skill, and if it lines up really well, you're going to deal way more damage, but this is more of a luck-oriented build in comparison to the next one. I did go for Naked Rage on this build just because you are dealing so much skill damage that it actually becomes way, way, way worth it. So for the most part, Naked Rage is really good with Zhuge Liang in like any situation. And I also really like Venomous Sting because, you know, increasing your skill damage on a commander with that much skill damage is really good as well. The other build I recommend, this is the one I will personally be running, is this Rage build where I went into Feral Nature because I really do like having a fast Rage cycle. I didn't get Latent Power because I'm not running any commanders with additional skill damage. Same thing to note with the first talent build because Latent Power only applies to additional damage factor. Zhuge Liang has none of that. It will tell you if a command has additional damage factor, just read Cyrus skills basically. So, I also once again went for the Naked Rage and also went again for Venomous Sting, but I stopped there. I didn't think it was worth going any further because you literally can't. I did pick up the extra rage here. 9 rage per turn may not sound like a lot, but it could make the little difference that you need to get over the line to make it to your next skill. That's like 90 rage after like 10 turns, or 45 after 5 turns basically, so I really still like that skill. I also did go in and I got the all damage over the attack obviously, because attack isn't as valuable, but you could have gone maybe down to the versatility tree, but then again, it's only like 1.5% health over 1.5% all damage and 6% attack. I don't really think that it was worth it. Some people say go for the March speed here. I definitely don't think that's a good idea. I think just sticking with either this build or this build are your two best options. There are, I guess, some variations you could go in here and get full quiver if you really wanted extra attack for some reason, and you'd probably have to drop off like this health right here. But then again, I think this is probably still the best build you could go for. Now, accessories for Zhuge Liang are really not the same as some other commanders, and they do get a little bit weird from time to time, but this is really just all my personal opinion. It's actually something you could consider. Pendant of the Eternal Night is not bad. For a commander who's dealing that much skill damage, especially if you're putting with Nebu or YSG, if you have this accessory already made, then I say consider it. If not, I just run probably standard Ring of Doom and Horn of Fury. You don't have much March speed, so I don't really like Concealed Dagger or Mora's Web, but Ring of Doom and Horn of Fury are really nice on this March. Obviously, Ring of Doom giving you a massive all damage increase, and that's very, very powerful. Now you know everything to do with Zhuge Liang. He is one of the best commanders in the game. I think that I made that quite prominent and obvious in the video. In terms of archers, he is either the best or second best, depending on how much you value your Boudica, and for almost every player, he is a must invest at this point. If you have a Zhuge Liang, congrats, you made a good choice, and hopefully the information and pairs I gave you work really well with him and you do enjoy them. If you like the ideas and concepts I put out in this video, do know I want to push these videos out pretty much daily, so consider subscribing to the channel as we push 1,000 subscribers by June 27th. I will also be spinning the Zhuge Liang wheel once he fully gets in-game, and that will be about Tuesday at like 4 or 5 UTC. So you should be excited for that as I try and spin the wheel, unlock Zhuge Liang and put 400 or 300 gold heads into him. It's going to be insane and it's going to be really fun. I just want to say thank you for watching and I hope to see you in the next one.